Well, welcome back. We're here to cover the back half of season 4, episode 8. We left off with June and her moment that we have been waiting for, where she basically gets to take her stand against Fred and Serena. And we pick up with Aunt Lydia going to Larry's house for a lovely conversation about her job performance.
I absolutely love how Lydia jumps on the defense straight away and is all apologies for the tasering, and Larry's just not having any of it.
Nope. He makes some interesting points too, like we were saying in this season, we're so happy that we have like a real solid timeline now. Like we know it's been 7 years. June had been in Gilead for 7 years. And that is a long time. And we see that when Larry says, this handmaid was obedient and compliant. They all are these days. They've known Gilead all their lives. Unlike some, looking at you, Lids, and Janine, and every other one of them. But yeah, now we're at the point where, like, when we have handmaids, they don't know anything different. So it sounds like Lydia's job has the potential to get a lot easier, and she was just making it fucking harder on herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's obviously dealing with a lot of her own traumas. I think we get a better glimpse of it in the Testaments, but it's still hard to put my finger on exactly what her trauma is and what her reactions are. But I mean, she's going through a thing, and she definitely, we've seen her go through this before, and we've seen these like weird overreactions, this like massive sense of denial of any type of rejection. Like she just, I don't know exactly what's going on. I have a new theory. But again, like, I don't really want to play podcast clinician, but if I had to make my best guess, after a quick Google search, because I was getting hung up on the narcissist part, and like, the more I thought about Lydia from the Testament, we know she's been dealing with a lot of abuse her whole life. So, and then it made me think of something that Scarlett had said in the past episode about how prolonged abuse or prolonged trauma, like June's experiencing after 7 years, it affects you differently than trauma that's one quick and catastrophic event. And so I was trying to figure out if that had something to do with like all of these intricacies that we've been seeing with Lydia, that I can't quite fully understand what she's doing and why she reacts the way she reacts at times, especially now, like you're saying, like she just seems like she should be in a good spot and she's really still wildly out of control. So my best guess would be that she has borderline personality disorder. Are you familiar with this at all?
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree?
I don't know enough about it to agree.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know.
I don't want to tell you
stuff
that you know, because this is like news for me. So I'm like, if you've been there, done that, and I'm wrong, just jump in and tell me. Because, but it's marked by an ongoing pattern of varying moods, self-image, and behavior. These symptoms can often result in impulsive actions and problems with relationships. People may experience intense episodes of anger, depression, and anxiety that can last for hours or days. And it's very common of people, specifically with childhood traumas, of prolonged type of trauma, tend to exhibit these types of behavior. And I'd like to read more about it because I feel like that is very much what we're seeing here and in the past with like, I just think she's still reeling from all of the events of her torture. Like that can't be like, we didn't see it, but 19 days versus what we saw with June, it couldn't have been great. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we know from the Testaments that she also has a history of trauma from her initiation to being an aunt. So of torture. So there's just a lot that Lydia's dealing with as well. So I think it's interesting that she seems so out of control in this episode where we're seeing June also reeling from her experiences. And so I'm just wondering exactly what's happening with Lydia. I don't know, but she's definitely not in top form. And I guess that's essentially what Larry's calling her out on. Like, this doesn't have to be that hard, Lydia.
I think what's happening here is so in the first episode of the season, we see that Lydia did have to undergo 19 days of being interviewed by the commanders, which we all know is torture based off of how rough and ready her face looked. And that she wasn't going to be the subject of further discipline, not because of any innocence on her part or perceived innocence, but because her frailties were being considered. And she had to make a very vocal stand against these commanders to like about like she has eluded your soldiers for 19 days and made this impassioned plea, and even that wasn't enough to get her back in her position. She basically had to negotiate with Larry to be put back into her position, and is now at odds with all of the other aunts and this new order of aunts as well. And I think Lydia is coping with the trauma of having lost control of the handmaids, and she's been so busy dealing with all of the fallout around that and everything else that she hasn't really had the chance to wrap her head around her own shortcomings until this season, or until this episode, when Larry kind of like forces her to look at that and says like, it must be killing you. June Wan, out of your reach, free as a bird, singing like one too. And you can see it on her face that this really pains her. I think that like I agree with you on the borderline personality stuff, and I think that it might be rooted in like the final trigger for her losing June and Janine and these other handmaids who have continued to like slip through her reach and continued to elude her and continued to like push against her, when in her deep-seated psychosis somewhere like she thinks that what she's doing is right, and she's just like, what the fuck am I doing wrong that these women, like that these girls won't accept me? And she's now taking it out on the new class of handmaids and on the new aunts. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's just reeling and she really doesn't know what to do with herself. And this interaction really blew my mind because I feel like it is steering us even further into possible testaments territory. And so we know that there was this change in Aunt Lydia. Like, we've been kind of anticipating her becoming like pseudo resistance eventually. And how the fuck did that happen? So now we kind of get to see how it starts to happen. And you could have knocked me over with a feather when we realized that it's instigated by Larry. Like, he's trying to mold her to be a certain way because it benefits both of them. And he really it's not he doesn't attack her character. He simply makes some very obvious statements. People don't like you, Lydia. And I can empathize because they don't like me either. And I just thought it was hilarious because she looked so hurt about that. And she's worried that he's going to fire her, but he doesn't want to fire her. And honestly, I don't think he ever would because, I mean, she is his insider intel person. She's still useful to him. I just think it might be getting to a point with her job performance that she can't execute those jobs anymore. So they're all like, why the hell are we keeping this chick around? Larry, why are you backing up this chick? So she needs to like get it together. And I just can't believe that it's Larry that is trying to mold her into this softer, gentler, more passable Lydia. It's so cool. I don't know. It's weird to me. And I'm also shocked that it came from a guy. You would think that all of the interactions that she's had with these women who she's had power over, and that she would empathize with them in some way, and maybe think of this on her own. Maybe I should be trying to do things to make their lives easier or to make them want to be more compliant, not always taking the hard line. It's weird that it had to be Larry that points that out for her.
He's the only one giving her any approval, and she really desperately craves that. As we can see, like, it bothers her so much for him to call out a relatively obvious statement. No one really likes you. Like, yeah. It shouldn't, like, affect her the way it does, because if you were as pragmatic as Larry, he's like, it's fine. No one likes me either. There's more important things. But, like, I need you to be more likable because I need you on my side. And he's just being smarter about it, and she just like can't even go there because she's just like so hurt and offended. We saw her flashback. Like, she doesn't handle rejection well at all. Like, so I feel like anything that she responds to with Larry, it's got to be that he's on her side. because everyone else is gunning for her. He's the only one who could and should probably fire her, and he won't because he can't. But it's like she can't even see that. She's not even like operating as like Lydia here. She's clearly still reeling from something where she's just, I don't know, it's just a different Lydia. It's a traumatized Lydia versus one who always seems like, she likes to appear like she has control, and here she just has zero control, and I feel like he's the only one who's giving her the time of day or giving her a lifeline, so she's gonna basically do what he says.
He's not just giving her a lifeline, he then hands her away for her to get some level of control back, because like you said, like this is a Lydia with zero control right now, and she doesn't have control over the handmaids, she doesn't have control over her own station, she doesn't have control over the event or anything that's happening at Ardua Hall. She's completely lost her sense of identity within this dilapidated Gilead community. And when Larry says, I want you back in form, and the work we're doing is about the future of Gilead, and she like humbly agrees. And then he hands her Janine on a silver platter. And like, it's a terrible, awful thing to do. But this is Larry's pragmatic and like purely intellectually, not emotionally driven way of saying to her, like, you're bent out of shape because you lost these handmaids multiple times. And it happened on your watch. You can fix it. You can repair, you can do your own PR work right now. You can make things right in the eyes of all of your colleagues in Gilead and make me look better in the meantime for backing you and making the right decision when you're being handed this opportunity.
Oh. I didn't really take it that way. Surprise. It's interesting. I can see that now that you say it. I took that line, just the fact that, just specifically, I'm with you for most of that. So I was thinking more that he was offering Janine on a silver platter solely for Lydia's sake. I never thought about it in the appearances of, like, are you saying like torture Janine and punish Janine for in front of everyone, like for Lydia to regain some of her authority in their eyes? Because that's the part I wasn't looking at it like.
I wasn't seeing it so much as like him telling her to torture her publicly, but like
not publicly, but that they would know and see what she's doing.
Basically, give her the opportunity to correct the mistake that she made. Give her the opportunity, because I mean these handmaids escaped under her watch.
Okay.
Which is why, like, when Larry said it's fortuitous to have her in our it's fortuitous to have her in our custody right now. That placement of R was really what kind of like sent me down this thought process, because it gives them an opportunity for Lydia to have an outlet for that anger and that aggression, which is the right outlet. Realistically, we love Janine, we don't want to see any harm befall her, but if Aunt Lydia's going to be mad at any of these handmaids for escaping, be mad at the handmaids that escaped. 4 of them are dead. 1's in Canada. You have 1 that like is the appropriate venue for any frustration. Not condoning it, not saying I like the idea, but that's the proper place for Lydia to outlet her emotions
versus her colleagues.
Versus her colleagues versus the new handmaids.
Yes.
Exactly. So if she does that, it shows that she can control her emotions in regards to the other aunts, in regards to the new handmaids. It shows a zero tolerance policy on her end for any sort of insolence from her handmaids. And it also would act as a sign of faith that Commander Lawrence's faith in Lydia to be able to effectively lead the handmaids and be the leader in Ardua Hall that he and she need her to be. His faith isn't misplaced.
I got you. See, I didn't see it like that at all. I just figured he was giving Janine over as basically Lydia's private punching bag. Like, not so much any kind of show for anyone other than like, here, she's over at Gitmo. Why don't you just head over there and take, cattle prod her and stop cattle prodding Carly? Like, knock it off. So so when you said that, I was like, oh, I didn't see it that way. Because then her reaction, because that's the part that I thought was funny, is that, it's debatable, but I guess that Lydia at least disagrees with Larry's assessment of her, in terms of, he's like, I get it, everyone has their things, you should just, take your aggressions out on her. He thinks that he's found the right outlet for her. I'm not sure if that's necessarily Lydia's right outlet, because she seems outraged by it. At least she won't say that's her outlet. She doesn't like to give the pain. She says it in the testaments too. She's like softened over the years, so maybe this is part of her softening. But she yeah, because I think in the past, though, it's not necessarily that she liked doing it as much as she needed to show that she could and would, and on the surface liked it. Like, the fact that a commander thinks she likes this is probably what she's tried to do the whole time, because that's what she would need to do to be an aunt to begin with, and to be an aunt of her caliber, and to rise to where she was. So, I'm not positive. I haven't seen enough. I don't know. It's debatable. I just think that she at least doesn't see herself as enjoying it, and she doesn't want to. Like, I thought he was straight up like, here, you're going to have to go torture her, and you're going to do it in front of everyone, or at least have everyone know that this is what you're going to have to go do, and you're going to do it. And she's like, horrified at this notion. And then when he's like, do what you want, and she's like, oh good, I don't have to hurt her. Like, that's all I took from it.
All right, the enjoyable part, like, I don't think that part's up for debate. I very much agree with you on that. I don't think that Lydia takes any pleasure in it, because when she's like, no, I don't enjoy it, and Larry's like, no, we all got our kicks somewhere. I think that was him just kind of like brushing it under the rug, and like, as opposed to getting down to like the true nitty gritty of it, that was his way of sort of like brushing it aside. I totally agree with you on that Lydia doesn't enjoy this. That wasn't part of my original consideration at all. Like,
yeah,
she doesn't
no,
enjoy
I'm just saying, I assumed you would think that. I feel like I'm in the minority just by saying it out loud. That's why I was tripping over what I was trying to say, because I was trying to say it right. Because obviously we've seen Lydia do a lot of like terrible, horrible things. I'm not saying that she hasn't. I'm just saying that I don't necessarily think she enjoys it. And I'm surprised you agree with me.
It doesn't matter if she enjoys it or not. The perception is that she enjoys it, because that is the tool most used at her disposal. So as far as everybody else is concerned, she loves to have a heavy hand.
Yeah.
Another thing, can we please talk about what Larry said when he says he wants her back in form? The work that they're doing is the future of Gilead, and that means the world to him. It means everything to him. Hold up, it does? Like, since when?
Yeah.
I know it means
No,
the
it
world
does.
to him in the way that he needs to save his ass. Is he really taking that thing about Eleanor and him cleaning up his messes that seriously? I think I'm just surprised.
I think he is.
I think
And
he
I'm
is,
not
too.
surprised, and I didn't think that was that surprising. Yeah,
I
I,
don't
think
know.
so.
I'm-
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I have a Pollyanna look on everything, but
Well,
that,
because he
I
just generally
so.
doesn't seem to give a shit about anything.
Except for Eleanor.
Yeah,
He
except
gave a
for
shit
Eleanor.
about
So
Eleanor.
I'm just surprised that he is actually going, because I was viewing him and this whole like, I'm gonna continue my work in Gilead thing as either he was doing it to save his own ass, or he was doing it to, I don't know, appease Eleanor's memory. Or a combination of the two. But I was really feeling like it was I don't know, I want to kind of save my own ass as much as possible kind of thing, but make Gilead better in the process, because clearly we done fucked up. But I don't know, I just didn't, I am surprised to hear such platitudes of it means everything to him. It means the world to him, the future of Gilead. He's comes off to me as the type of person who is just like, fuck Gilead. I actually hate this place, but I'm just doing it to keep myself off the wall.
So I think that it is the Tao of June Osborne.
Maybe.
Because that's what, in the end of season 3, that's how I always took that sentiment to be, in terms of, I never saw it as him going to save his own ass. I always took it as he had been at least persuaded that there wasn't really any other option to do. He wasn't going to leave. So while he's here, he's going to continue to do what he can from what June inspired him to do. But that's not necessarily why it means the world to him. It means the world to him because June showed him why it meant the world to Eleanor.
Okay.
So I think it was June's really good at seeing what matters to people and using that. And I think she was the one who really put it in his head that they needed to work together. They needed to get these kids out because his wife is dead because of Gilead. I think she really pushed that hard on him of, look what they did to her. Look what you did to her. The only way to make it right is to make this world better because that's all she ever wanted. And I think that's true. And I think he believes it and knows it's true, that that's what Eleanor would want. And so I think for him, there's no other reason to do anything other than to fix his mess as Eleanor would want. Tao of June Osborne, because she was the one who showed it to him. So when he said that to Nick, I think that he really did believe that too.
Yeah. I like that idea of the Tao of June Osborne, because it's a notion of harkening back to season 4, episode 1, when he says that some men need to be led. Yeah. In this case, Aunt Lydia needs to be led.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Nice callback.
Do we want a new scene?
Before we do scene, this is watching Aunt Lydia's anguish, regardless of the intention of all of this, watching the anguish come across Aunt Lydia's face when she realizes that she's going to have to inflict some measure of punishment, whether passive, direct, however, on Janine, her favorite. When she sees Janine's picture, she audibly gasps and like wells up, almost like a mother like June seeing a picture of Hannah after so long. So as dilapidated a relationship as it is, Lydia genuinely has some sort of care and concern in her heart for Janine, no matter how misguided. And she's mentioned several times in the testament how she used to have faith, and then there was a turning point. I think this is her turning point. I think that this is the start of that lack of faith in everything that Gilead has come to stand for, and her wanting to tear it the fuck down. Because no matter what happens in the next 2 episodes, in this episode later on, we see Aunt Lydia have to play the manipulator and have to pit Janine against like her own instincts. And for as much as she cares about Janine, it's got to be awful. So like I genuinely think like this is the start of her turning point.
And it was such a long road to get there. I mean, they've been planting these little seeds with us since season 3 of something just not being okay with Aunt Lydia. Not that Aunt Lydia was ever okay, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the shit out of her character development. It's been really fascinating. They always keep you wondering with her. She surprises you every time, but then somehow doesn't surprise you.